This week in Modern Returns, I am, of course, Mono Green of Llanowar with more modern news for you and yours. So strap yourself in, grab a bag of stale Halloween candy, and enjoy the best of what the format has to show us. First, we'll be checking in on Season 2 of the Trophy Tussle as we're getting near the end of this shorter season. Then we'll be checking in on the weekend's challenges, and finally, looking at some sweet decks from the 5-0 deck dump. So let's check in on that Trophy Tussle.
This Week in Modern presents the Trophy Tussle.
There is 1 week remaining in the trophy race. Let's look at how the standings are as we enter this final leg. Vaulting to the top of the board over Martinez DP's 22 trophies is Punt Then Wine, taking most of his trophies off of Amulet Titan and keeping the queue on their toes in fear of the turn 1 Arboreal Grazer. That's a very different type of stupid monkey. Assaulted by his own accomplishments, the Pensword seemed to be cracking under the pressure earlier this week and ready to throw in the towel. However, he rallied back, taking Trophy 21 last night with Blue Moon, and is still potentially on pace to win this race. In 4th place, the banned account of Capoeira02 is still a testament to his accomplishments with 19 trophies. And in 5th place, and up on the board, Etron Master and player of Yawgmoth, Blue-White Control, and Dwarf Bugs, the Tunneling Cat. Also tied with 15 trophies and just off the board is MTG Nazart, continuing to prowl for trophies with Black-White Griefblade. Demonic Tutors and Grinder Mistaken follow up the pack on 14 trophies apiece, and Kurusu showing up in back-to-back deck dumps on their signature Kiki Chord list is at 13 trophies. There's a wide field of players at 12 trophies that could still make a dash for 5th place on the board. So we'll see how that goes for them over the next week as the trophy race concludes. But besides these moto grinders being out there in the queues, let's check in on the weekend's challenges.
This Week in Modern presents Challenge Recaps.
The Saturday challenge had a surprising development in metagame representation. The winner, Doomswitch, on Blue-Red Murktide, was one of 8 players, a full 25% of the top 32 on this tempo deck. Doomswitch and a small cabal of Blue-Red aficionados, including Sunday's 14th place player Penseur, have been trying to fix some of the issues that Blue-Red Murktide has been having recently that's been preventing it from rising to the same levels of success that it had early in the Modern Horizons 2 cycle. The changes are individually minor, but perhaps lead to a greater change than you would expect overall. The Thought Scours have been swapped for Consider, and in Doomswitch's list they shaved a Lightning Bolt for a second main deck Spell Pierce. They're down to 1 Archmage's Charm, a main deck Force of Negation, and Brazen Borrower, and the sideboard includes copies of Dress Down. Throughout the 8 Murktide lists in the top 32, 7 of them are Blue-Red and 1 Jeskai, there was exactly 50-50 on the split of Thought Scour versus Consider, with minor variations in flex slots all over the place. Are these minor changes really what helped the Swamp Dragon fly high this week, or perhaps just a quirk of the metagame? In other archetype news, a deck that seems to be gaining steam slowly and consistently is the once feared Amulet Titan, which took Big JC00 to runner-up in the Saturday Challenge. This build features 33 lands, no Karn the Great Creator, and copies of Abundant Harvest, Explore, and Arboreal Grazer. 2 more of the top 8 spots went to Murktide on identical 7-0 records from the Swiss. Oskia in 3rd place, who was joined in the semifinals by Zoomer Wunderkind Jujubin 2004, who brought Mesmeric Orb back to Blue-Black Mill this week, and BST in 5th place. The final members of your top 8 were Grixis Death Shadow, 4-color definitively not elementals, and Black-Green Yawgmoth played by, who else? Demonic Tutors. 2 players with a 6-2 record made top 8. But players who did not fell all the way down to 18th place, with representatives of Jund Saga, Temur Rhinos, Living End, Blue-White Control featuring 4 Fire Ice, Affinity, and 4-color creativity. And there were even more exciting lists down the tail end of the top 8 as well, with Temur Grinding Breach in 23rd place from control player First Turn Negator, as well as thought to be extinct species Blue-Red Through the Breach, which put Soggy Cheerios into 19th place. Bamzig and Canister MTG put in some extra work after the event, however, to get us a full breakdown of archetypes of the 133 players. So let's take a look at that. Almost 10% of those who entered on the day were playing Blue-Red Murktide, with 7% going each to 4-color Sky Noodle and Hammer Time, 6% each to Blue-White Kahira, Temur Rhinos, and Living End, Burn, and Esper Reanimator following closely behind them. There were a number of variations of Blue-White, including No Kahira and Urian, that are not included in the blue-white number shown here. And there's another 20% here, represented by the other category, that was any deck with exactly one player on it. Let's take a look at conversion rate. And before we get into that, in this case, conversion rate is the number of copies in the top 32 versus the number of copies that entered the full event. In the case of blue-white, a disastrous 7% conversion rate across the 13 different people piloting it. Hammer Time was only slightly better at 11%, and Jun Sagavan slightly up from there with 1 out of 6 players making top 32. Conversion rates on small representations such as Blue-Black Mill with a single pilot shouldn't be taken too seriously, of course, but there's clearly some level of difficulty faced by Blue-White, Hammer, and Jund, and this should not be understated. Murktide somehow boasted a 61.5% conversion rate out of the 13 players, seeming to be ideally positioned despite an unchanged number of Solitude in the metagame. This serious Saturday shakeup sends us salivating into Sunday, but how can we expect it to match this kind of stir? A good place to start is with Crusherbot, BG, taking down the whole event on their patented Luris-less Hammer Time list. This player continues to astound us with no Thoughtseize, no Bob, no cuteness, just 4 Steel Shaper's Gifts, and a grip full of swords to throw on their Nettle Cyst, alongside 2 Paradise Mantles. Hammer Time, finally a bride, and don't they look radiant. Belcher was the other finalist, ZYX Jerry, carrying the Torch of Sodek on this Sunday, though playing a higher number of Pact of Negations than Sodek's stock list. Jabberwocky put themselves into 3rd on 4-color Sky Noodle over Tickle Me Tarantino on Mono White Hammer Time with Luris. And your quarterfinalists include Burn by Frackum, SWFF on Blue-Red Murktide with Consider, Temur Rhinos, and Amulet Titan featuring 1 Emrakul the Aeon's Torn and 2 copies of Through the Breach alongside 1 Turntimber Symbiosis. In the case of Sunday, our top 8 included 3 players with X2 records. Other X2s went down again to 18th place, including 2 representatives of BTL Scapeshift in 13th by Usunk and 16th by Boucha, and a representation of most of the top meta, including Living End, Black-White Hammer, 4-color Ephemerate, and Rug Rhinos. And down the top 32, there's some sweet spice in the form of Mordekaiser on his recent 5-0 list, Song of Creation Elementals featuring Birgi, God of Storytelling, and a Conflagrate finisher. Amulet Titan, Contra Ego on his Love Blue-White Urzablade combo, and Indomitable Creativity peeping in with another appearance. Bamzig's full breakdown of the Sunday metagame is of course available in the show notes. Murktide proving itself, Hammer Time and Blue-White suffering a bit, and Belcher still on the map, the top tiers of Modern continue to churn and shift under pressure. But Crimson Vow previews have begun, and it's only a matter of time before we get the full list and some changes to Modern. Midnight Hunt offered Graveyard Decks upgrades, and there's no telling what might come along with this vampire-focused set. The 5-0 dump is already a spot to see bleeding edge developments, so let's take a look and maybe a taste before we leave for the week. Alberto SD and Doomswitch had separate success this week on Temur Sagavan, swapping proactive hand hate out of black for counterspells, expressive iterations, and a total lack of Luris, despite one of the builds having no cards in the main deck that would violate this companion condition, showing that the cat might have gone just right back in the bag. several Oswald Fiddlebender decks have popped into vogue after Aspiring Spike experimented successfully with a mono-white Fiddlebender list. This list, Blue-White Fiddlebender, Urza Thopter Sword from Contra Ego, continues testing with Fiddlebender, putting him to work as a redundant way to put together combo engines and pieces for this deck. As we close out the Halloween season, Dredge has been rising from the grave with a number of versions trying Otherworldly Gaze, Faithful Mending, Thrilling Discovery, and even Burning Inquiry again in different numbers. This version, with a posting for Daijin, shows some of the identity crisis where Fanfaro trophied with a cleaner list. 4-color Sagavan, a truly staggeringly greedy list, got a posting with 0 copies of Abundant Growth or Navigator's Compass, reminding us all of the glory of Modern Horizons 2 early season pilot Charlie the Banana King. And a final highlight, Ad Nauseam Master Mashmalovsky got a posting on Gyruda Titan Reanimator. 4 Cabal Coffers and 4 Urborg make this list an absolutely insane amalgam with 2 Grief, 2 Grave Titan, 3 Wormcoil Engine, 4 Archon of Cruelty, 1 Sundering Titan, and 0 copies of Unmarked Grave. Other postings include Hammer with Monkey, Canister bringing back fan favorite Lantern Control, Uber Mikey B showing up on Inverter, and so many more. Well, that about does it for all the Modern news fit to be reported for this week. But if you've got a Modern deck or story that you want to share with us, please feel free to tweet me at twimmtg@twitter.com or email us at thisweekinmodern@gmail.com. For now, this is me, Mono Green of Llanowar, wishing you the best of top decks and the best of luck.